Good morning. I'm Bishop Desmond. I'm actually in Preston today for the funeral of one of our Windrush elders. And today is Tuesday, 25th of May 2021, 1 year on since the sad death of George Floyd. The death of George Floyd yet again brought forward the discrimination that we as black people face. It brought it to the home this time because it brought worldwide outrage. But when I consider this, there's been so many issues that we face as a community at the hands of the authorities. Sometimes we have to ask ourselves, have we got anywhere yet? Simple question, what has changed since the death of George Floyd? One thing it has sparked is the conversations that we should have been having 20, 30 years ago. We look back to the civil rights movement in America, the beatings that black people took in places like Birmingham, Alabama, places like Selma for simply wanting the right to vote, people being killed, both black and white, because they believe in equality and social justice. Many that believe that we are created in God's image and the color of our skin doesn't define who we are because we're all God's children. There are times when we feel that knee, that foot is still on our necks. Here in the UK, we have so many socio-economic issues. We've got the Windrush scandal. We've got, many call it structural racism. I just call it systemic racism, which has been there since day dot, and we're still talking about it. But thankfully, there are some conversations which have started. But we now need to turn those conversations into action. We've seen the recent incident where a doorman for doing his job was pushed and called the N-word. Indeed, I've been on recent meetings where people have infiltrated a meeting and used the N-word, but we dealt with that straight away, by the way. Let me make it clear. That was dealt with on a no-nonsense basis. We have many things going on. We still have, in the UK, excessive use of force against members of the black community and the Asian community for that matter. And in fact, let's forget the working class white community. This is about equality. What happened with George Floyd was Derek Chauvin would not stop restraining him by the neck using his areas of his foot until he died. And he has been found guilty for that. However, what we must do now is say no more. No more, no more. We can't on anniversaries like this be sending out messages after messages after messages. The only way to commemorate what has happened to George Floyd is to bring on the changes. And not forgetting, a few days before the death of George Floyd, a young black man died in police custody in a cell in Torquay police station. A couple of months before the death of George Floyd, a West Midlands police officer went on the rampage and is currently on assault charges for use of excessive force against young black men in Birmingham. And let's not forget what's happening at Birmingham Crown Court now with the trial of the police officers in the case of Dalian Atkinson. I was reminded by some photographs the other day, almost 6 years to the date, we had a march on Steelhouse Lane Police Station in the case of Kingsley Burrell. Let's not forget Mikey Powell. Let's not forget Stephen Lawrence. Let's not forget Smiley Culture. Let's not forget Sean Rigg. Let's not forget anyone at all, because there are still grieving families out there. And despite what has happened, we must remember George Floyd's family have lost George permanently. The family of Simeon Francis has lost Simeon permanently. And the list continues. But we must have justice. We must have equality. We must have fairer treatment. And that's what's important. So today's message is a very, very simple one. Whilst we commemorate, whilst we light candles, as people of God, we must be stepping up. I'm a part of the Time for Change Charter, and it's got the churches talking about discrimination, because discrimination should never have been brought into the body of Christ. But the proof of the pudding is in the tasting, as we all say. And we must act to change things. Get involved in civic life. Be around those decision-making tables. Have strong leadership that will let things like the Windrush scandal not happen again. Paulette Wilson, rest in peace, and all the others who have passed. We are God's children, and we will conquer. But we need to wake up and smell that all-important coffee. And finally, my prayers and wishes go out to the family of Sasha Johnson. Fighting on the road to equality is not an easy task, and it's not a sprint, it's a major marathon. But the important issue is here, is who we bring along on that all-important journey. And I'll tell you this now, if you think it's an easy ride, the amount of hate mail that I get at times, the number of threats I get, the number of racial abuse that I get, the amount of it from all angles. You have to be strong. But why is it that we have to continually fight? We're going through this cycle of discrimination, this cycle of oppression, and it must now stop. God bless you all. God bless the family of George Floyd and all the other families who are grieving today. And a message to those in authority: instead of sending out a message, act. Do something about it. Zero tolerance. Because if you don't remove your knee off our neck, we will be removing it with God's grace and God's empowerment, because we will triumph over the oppression that is there holding us back. God bless you.